Almost.
We're live.
It's time. Are you ready?
Yep.
Dippity-a.
Oh, Laura, you're singing, but we've just gone live, so I want to welcome.
Plenty of sunshine headed our way.
I'll let you do your thing.
I'm done.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
So I want to welcome everyone who has joined us to this Screenside chat with CWD. Today, I am very pleased to be sitting with Laura Billetdeaux and Jeff Hitchcock. Is it weird if I say like the mom and dad of CWD, or does that sound unusual?
Yeah.
You guys are like
that sounds kind of weird.
The creators and the visionaries behind this amazing conference. So what we wanted to do for this week's chat was to have you guys on so that you could give a little behind the scenes of how we're building out this virtual conference, what it's been like, maybe some fun behind the scenes stories, but also to kind of tell the story of CWD and Friends for Life so that those people who are joining us, and there are so many first timers coming to virtual Friends for Life Orlando, that they'll have a chance to hear some of the backstory of what led us here. And so by way of very brief introduction to the folks at home, my name is Carrie Sparling. I'm the editorial director for CWD, and I also have the pleasure of working on staff with Laura and Jeff to help put the virtual conference together. And I was kind of hoping that Jeff and Laura would start by introducing themselves to the folks at home who haven't met them yet and saying hi to those people who do know them already.
Sure, Jeff, you go.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hitchcock. I founded Children with Diabetes in 1995. Our family's connection is my daughter, Marissa, who was diagnosed with type 1 at the age of 24 months in September of 1989. She is now almost 33, so she's lived with type 1 for 31 years. She is a research nurse at Stanford University and mom to Connor, Evie, and Baxter, who's my granddog. So.
And how about you,
And
Laura?
I'm Laura, and my connection to children with diabetes and to type 1 is my son Sam, who was diagnosed when he was 8 years old, way back in 1998. And we very quickly, like stepping out the door of the hospital, discovered the Children with Diabetes website and Jeff Hitchcock and his family, and we've been connected ever since.
Yep.
That is pretty awesome. And so you've already mentioned, kind of given a nice segue into my next question, which was about CWD as a website. So Jeff, can you walk us through a little bit of like your superhero origin story about CWD?
It is nothing like that, but it is sort of an interesting story. So back after Marissa was diagnosed, I was working as a software engineer, and there used to be something called CompuServe and message boards. These were very early tools that a lot of engineers used to share, learn from each other, talk about problems, work kind of stuff. And there was a diabetes forum on CompuServe. And I learned a lot there about life with diabetes back in 1989, 1990. But nothing there was really relevant to parents of kids with type 1. And then fast forward a little bit, in 1994, our family moved to the Cincinnati area where we still live. And the company I was with got access to the World Wide Web, the very beginnings. And it was clear that that medium was the perfect tool to build essentially a support group for families like ours. And just over a year after moving here, I got laid off and I came home and called my internet provider and said, I need a full-time 28.8 modem connection. I'm going to launch this website about kids with diabetes, thinking the internet, it's going to be big. It was a little early, but in the end, it all did work out.
And so what year was that it first?
June of 1995, site went live.
That's pretty wild. I mean, I started a blog in 2005 and I thought I was some kind of pioneer, but clearly I was a little behind the curve in that way.
Yeah, we've actually had people who are still with us.
Oh, nice.
Who joined us in those very early years. It's really amazing.
Oh, and there's Mindy Schwartz is in the chat room, and she said that she was a participant way back then. So we've got some people,
some old timers like us.
That's right. Yeah. I know I wasn't sure how to phrase that without making it sound a little weird, but so Mindy's brought up the participating in, would you call them message boards or the chat forums?
Yeah, so we had a couple of things. There was the old sequential browser chat, which was a lot of fun. And that was really interesting because parents during the night would be up checking kids' blood sugars. If there was something that needed taking care of, either a high or a low, they would hop on, find other parents. We got to know some parents who were military families in Japan. So they were essentially 12 hours off, but they were part of their day there. We had email lists, we had forums, all the stuff, sort of interactive web 1.0 stuff, nothing quite as fancy as today. But it was a great way to connect to families like ours where you didn't have to explain things. We all knew what we were doing. We knew what it meant to check blood sugars and treat a low. We all knew what it meant to, not get a lot of sleep at night. So.
Mm-hmm. And Laura, you were a participant on those chat boards. That kind of leads into the birth of Friends for Life as a conference. So can you tell a little bit of that story about what it was like to be a participant in those early boards, and then what brought us to that first conference?
Sure. So I actually was a mom on the listserv that Jeff is talking about. It was the parents listserv. Jeff, I think you called it Friends or something like that. And there was a place that you could have an email conversation, but also a place that you could post. Mm-hmm. I guess sort of like a forum now. Yep. And my family, we had a vacation planned, and we had been participating already for almost a year in the listserv, and we had gotten to know quite a few people, and we were planning to go to Disney World. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if another family or two might want to come with us, and we could hang out together and go to the park together. And like you said, Jeff, we wouldn't have to explain anything. We could just have a great vacation. So I posted on the parents listserv, we're going to Disney World in June of 2000. Does anybody want to come with us? And oh gosh, within like a half hour, a whole bunch of people had responded. And within a week, almost 100 people had responded. And I didn't know Jeff. So I didn't really know how to tell him what was happening. And I remember, Jeff, did I email you or call you that first time?
Look, that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but I got in touch with him. I told him what was going on, and I said, could we call this like a CWD gathering? Because all of these are CWD families, and we all want to get together. And he said, no, CWD doesn't do that. Yeah. And I kept bugging him. I have learned with Jeff that I need to ask about 3 times before he'll say yes. So by the 3rd time, we had almost 500 people. He said God. Yes. We all got together in June of 2000, and there were what, Jeff, 550 people, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. So if you kind of go back to 1999, 2000, and imagine you come home from work and your spouse says, we're going to go on vacation with my imaginary friends. It was a real bet at that time, because this was something so new to all of us. But to Laura's credit, her persistence was definitely worth it, and proved just how important getting together in real life was. Laura arranged a great event. We did a day at SeaWorld. We did a day at the Magic Kingdom, a lot of shared meals, time around the pool together. And afterwards, she reached out to families and said, all right, now what?
What's next?
Yeah.
And what was that response?
Well, there were a lot of responses. So we actually sent a questionnaire to people, and we said, if we were going to do this again, what would you want it to have? And people were pretty clear about what they wanted. They wanted information, so sessions. They wanted information for their kids, so youth programming. They wanted to meet the people who were making products that they used, so an exhibit hall. And they also wanted a lot of social time so that they could connect with each other. They wanted to be by the pool. Can I tell a funny story about
Yeah, all day.
So I think it was Saturday, and we were all at the pool. Think about it. There's 550 people at the Sheraton Safari pool, and the kids are all in the water, and all of a sudden somebody's infusion set floats up to the top. And I mean, this was way back when. This was 20 years ago. So think about the technology we were all using. And everybody sort of looked at each other like, oh no, what do we do now? So we hauled all the kids out of the pool and lined them all up to see who was missing theirs. And I knew it wasn't Sam because I had taken a roll of duct tape and duct around his middle so that his infusion set would stay put. But it was like 1 minute where we all looked at each other and realized how funny it was, that we were all thinking the same thing. We were all so alarmed. We'd all hauled our kids out of the water, and everyone started to laugh. And to me, that felt like a gelling moment with everyone.
I mean, we've seen that in the greater community, the greater diabetes community, regardless of what organization people are affiliated with. If you find that common thread, that common moment, and it's laced with levity, there is, like you said, that real gelling. This is a very heavy condition to kind of deal with all the time as parents and as adults, children living with diabetes. And so when you find the people that you can have that like dark humor sort of laugh with, or find those shared strange connections that only they would get, that cements that relationship. And that sounds like that's what you guys have done through just that first conference. And so I know it's called Friends for Life, and we'll get to why it is in just a minute, but what was it first called? That first faux gathering, like what did you guys
Letting kids be kids.
Okay, and that was on the t-shirt?
That was on the t-shirt.
That's pretty amazing.
That was the first one in 2000. And then the real conference the next year, when we actually put one together, was called It's a New Day in Diabetes.
Yep.
You put that all on one t-shirt.
we yeah, small font. But
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, but now it's called Friends for Life. And so, Jeff, do you mind telling us what Friends for Life is? And Laura, if you can kind of fill in why it's called that afterwards, that would be awesome.
So as Laura mentioned, we reached out to families, we got feedback. So Friends for Life has become our conferences. It is, and I'm going to talk about Orlando primarily, a 6-day event with the best speakers in research and clinical care and psychosocial support in sports and athletics, all of the aspects of living with type 1. It is, if we are in person, 112 sessions for adults over 4 days, similar numbers for kids, dedicated youth programming, giant social events, banquets with 2,100 people and all that kind of stuff. And an exhibit hall with sponsors and companies that make products that help us live well with type 1. And that is actually one of the most incredible parts of what we do, because our families are so hungry to learn about how do we do this to the maximum, and the sponsors are a key part of it. So it is basically our conferences.
And Laura, Friends for Life, that fits better. T-shirt. So
yeah,
why?
So it's called Friends for Life because in 2001, after the first one where it was called It's a New Day in Diabetes, Marissa, who was a teenager, Marissa, Jeff's daughter, came up to a group of us, and she was just kind of chattering away at Jeff, and she said, "Oh, I love all of these friends, all my friends. It's like they're my friends for life." And we both looked at each other and said, okay, they are, we are, that's the new name.
Yep.
I love that. And so, and a Friend for Life again, we have a lot of first timers coming to this year's conference. So when we talk about FFL and FFLs, Laura, can you give us a quick run through on what the heck a FFL is?
A FFL is a friend for life. So we went through a lot of iterations of what do we call each other? And calling you my friend for lifer, there just wasn't a name. And so FFL just sort of stuck. I don't remember who started it. It was just a few years ago that we started using the actual term FFL.
One of my friends that lives down the street, she was asking me what I've been busy working on the last couple of weeks. And I said, I've been working on the Friends for Life conference. And she's like, oh, send me a link to what you're working on. So I sent her a link, and she sent me a text just the other night and said, listen, I've spent the whole day learning about green bracelets and what a FFL is. And I just thought that was so cool that she was getting the lingo. Her family isn't touched by diabetes in any way other than us, but I thought that was really cool that people outside the bubble.
Lee Fickling wrote the best article about what is a FFL, and I think she just characterizes it so wonderfully. It's just somebody who understands, who gets it, who has been sitting in that hospital chair, who worries in the middle of the night, who worries all day long, who worries even though your child is little or your child is 30 years old. We just get it. We're friends for life.
we've been honored to have Lee share her essay with us, and it's hosted on the CWD website right now. So I can post a link to that in just a minute. And also, I mean, you've talked about families and children who are growing up with type 1, and especially in the last 10 years, there's been a real integration and programming built around adults like myself who were like the grown-up versions of the kids who have grown up through the conference. So what brought about that? I mean, it's a natural addition to the programming, but what really cemented that for you guys, that was a necessary next step for the programming?
Our kids grew up. I mean, not to oversimplify it, but when we started, the things that truly mattered to Laura and I were things related to children living with type 1, school issues, all that kind of stuff. And then as they grew up, we begin to see that it's much bigger than that. And bringing in adult programming for grown-ups living with type 1 and their families was a natural extension. And in point of fact, most of the adult/parent sessions at Friends for Life are for anyone, any grown-up living with type 1, you know, hearing about the latest in biological research or closed loop systems. That's not a parent program, and that's not an adult type 1 program. That's I'm living with type 1, this matters to me kind of thing. But we did start bringing in sessions that were really just for grown-ups. How to be a parent with type 1. A session called Safe Zone for Significant Others, which is how to be that supportive spouse or partner and not be, as Bill Polanski says, the diabetes police. Those types of sessions are really for grown-ups. And having those sessions gives adults with type 1 who may have missed out on diabetes summer camp experiences, for example, a sense of that this is home for them, that they do belong because they do belong. So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, the name of the organization doesn't always reflect the fact that it is as inclusive for families affected by type 1 diabetes, as well as adults like myself who are living with type 1. I mean, I brought my own daughter to Friends for Life, and it was really interesting to wear my green bracelet and introduce my little orange bracelet to the rest of my FFLO family. And really quickly, just for people who are tuning in that don't know what an orange or a green bracelet is, could you guys walk us through what on earth that is too?
Jeff?
Well, Laura can probably give you more details, but in short.
Wait, let me tell the story about why it happened. Okay.
You guys have a secret twin language.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that was what you were asking. So it was, I think, our first conference at Disney, and that was 2001. And the parents had all gone off to Pleasure Island. Remember Pleasure Island? They'd gotten on a bus, and you know, cell phones didn't reach that far. So we were in charge of all of the kids, and we had them all in one ballroom, and we had ordered snacks. And the snacks came, and of course, Disney doesn't make normal snacks. If you are thinking of a Rice Krispie treat this big, Disney brings you a Rice Krispie treat. And the cookies were as big as your head.
Nice.
And we looked at the kids and we thought, oh my gosh, we have no idea who has diabetes, who doesn't have diabetes. We aren't checking blood sugars. We have no method for doing anything with these giant snacks and kids whose blood sugars might go high or might go low. So actually one little girl started crying, and we took her blood glucose, and it turns out her sister came running over and she wanted to, so it was like the siblings all trying to help. And that was when we realized we really needed to have some way to tell the green bracelets from the orange bracelets. And that was how it started. It was totally by accident. And they're green and orange because Jeff told me, hurry up and get something. And I went on to PC name tag, and green and orange were the ones they had. And that was how we ended up with green and orange bracelets.
So people with type 1 are wearing, or people with diabetes are wearing green bracelets, and people who love someone with diabetes but happen to make their own insulin are wearing orange bracelets, right?
Correct.
I thought it was so funny because we really hadn't had that conversation ahead of time about, do we need to be able to tell who has type 1 because there might be an emergency that we need to deal with.
And those bracelets have taken on a meaning that we could have never imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember a brief story from one of our conferences in Canada many years ago. A woman was working for a diabetes care company, and she had type 1. She had her green bracelet on, and she came up rather weepy, saying, for the first time in my life, I feel like one of the cool people.
Oh. Oh, are you getting emotional, Jeff?
He is. Look
Oh
at
my
his
God.
nose is
You
getting
can
red.
even see it happening through video. Interesting.
All right. No, but it was so poignant, and
Mhm.
it stressed, I think, or emphasized that day to day, people with type 1, particularly adults, are often isolated. They don't have anyone to share their experiences with. But at this event, this was all about people who wore green bracelets.
Mhm.
Now, with that said, we really go out of our way to make sure that the people who wear orange bracelets, particularly kids, feel part of the event. And that was in large part because of Laura's daughter, Carolyn, and my daughter, Catherine, who were kind of asking, why are all our vacations diabetes? And that was sort of the basis for building out really good programming for kids who don't have diabetes, but who have a brother or sister who do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Or a parent. I know I keep driving that home
No.
too, but that same experience happens for adults with type 1 who are raising kids who either have or don't have diabetes,
Right.
and they find their crew there too.
And in
That's
the
pretty
last
awesome.
5-6 years, the youth programming has actually had to adapt a bit to care for and be meaningful to kids like yours,
Mhm.
Carrie, because it's mom who has diabetes. It's not my brother or sister. So in the sessions, all of the youth programming have a green bracelet, orange bracelet kind of session where they can go talk about things that matter to them. And for now, the orange bracelets have to talk about, it's not just I'm worried about my sister who has diabetes, it's my mom has diabetes.
Mhm.
So those are very different discussions.
And
You know, one of the things that I love about the wristbands is that when you're walking down the hall in the midst of all these people, you can look at a single person, look at their wristband, and in a glance almost get like a mini life story and know on what level it is that you're connecting with them, what you share.
absolutely. I mean, I know
And that's
before
just
my kids
amazing.
were born, I used to look for the adults wearing green bands who were holding hands with their kids who had orange bands. And I wanted to chase them down the hall and say, tell me it's going to be okay for me too. And I feel like the conference in general, especially when we're able to be there all together, you get to see what you are aspiring towards. And then you also get to see examples of people that you can help bring towards different levels of education, that sort of stuff. And that kind of leads me into a next question that I wanted to ask, which was, since the conference this is the 21st year, right?
21st, yep.
That's wild. And so the programming that you offered at the beginning included certain things, and the programming you offer now has evolved. So could you talk a little bit about how the conference has changed in terms of look and feel in response to what the community needed?
Well, I can talk about the science side, and Laura can kind of talk about some of the social side.
That'd be great.
For years, I have gone to professional conferences in the diabetes world, the ADA's scientific sessions, the AADE's event, it's something else now, and I apologize for forgetting it. Events outside the US, ISPAD, which is a pediatric diabetes organization among the just incredible, and a tech conference called ATTD, where you have a chance to meet new faculty, learn about new technologies or research. And I quite literally would just walk up to a session that I really liked, if it was a good speaker, hand him my card and said, are you busy in July? You want to come to Disney? And pretty much everyone said yes. So I was able to grow our faculty to be really wide ranging, not just US based. And we brought in new kinds of programming as it sort of became relevant. In the early years, we had a lot of sessions on just the mechanics of caring for type 1, because we had people on regular and NPH and injections, and pumps were not very common. So just dosing was a challenge. So there were sessions on getting the most out of MDI. And in time, as the mechanics got not so much easier, but more predictable, I think would be the best way to describe it. The psychosocial side became increasingly important. So right now, about half of the programming for adults focuses on psychosocial issues. Because if you've got your pump down and it's all working, now it's really about how do I thrive in my life, not how do I tame diabetes, because that we're doing. So, and then I would say one other thing that we've brought in that I will definitely miss this year is the eye health program, the retinal screening program. I'm guessing 10 or 12 years ago at an ADA, there was a gentleman sitting in a booth with some retinal screening equipment. And I walked up and said, hi, I'm Jeff. I do this conference in July. Can you come? Can you screen our kids? And Dr. Ben said yes. And every year since, he has brought what at the time when it's running is the best eye health center on the planet. State-of-the-art screening, to the point that the engineers from those companies have come and made improvements to the devices based on what they've learned there. So that's one thing we can't replicate virtually, unfortunately, but next year we'll be back.
And how about you, Laura, about the some of the psychosocial sessions that have been added or massaged over the years?
Yeah, gosh, how do I follow that, Jeff? There so much happened over 20 years. So I don't want to talk about the psychosocial because you mentioned that, but the social events. Think about 1,000 kids all in one conference and their families, their parents. What is it that we can do in the downtime? So we have the sessions, but we have time in between. We have time before, we have time late at night, we have time on the weekends. What do we do? What do we offer that allows people to really become friends, to really have the time to talk? And honestly, there's not a formula to it other than listen to what people are asking for, because it really has changed from year to year based on the feedback that people give us year to year. And we just try and make it better. I have always organized the conference from the perspective of what makes sense. What do we have available to us? What do people want? What can we afford to do? What do we have the staffing for? And, you know, pretty much we will try anything if it's a good suggestion and it makes sense. And
there are people in the chat room,
in
the chat room yelling pool party. So,
well, the pools are an amazing place to connect, particularly on a hot summer day. Years ago, we would actually decamp and go to Magic Kingdom, but that became economically challenging for too many of us. And some families go on the weekends, but we stay back and make it easy for people just to hang at the pool.
Yeah, and I also want to add that it's sometimes a little bit challenging to do things like pool parties in a place like Disney, because while we do take over the entire convention center, we don't take over the entire hotel. And there are lots of other guests there, and Disney can't close the pool for us and say, sorry, this is a Children with Diabetes Friends for Life event. So we have to do these things all within the regulations of the venue that we're at. And Disney is very, very good in working with us. So we usually can accomplish pretty much what we're out to do. But the pool party just for CWD isn't one of them.
Yeah.
Well, Laura,
you
have unintentionally given me the perfect segue into talking about taking the conference virtual, because talk about a challenging situation. So we've been forced to bring Friends for Life to people virtually this year based on the COVID-19 pandemic, which as a board member and a faculty member and all the ways that I'm involved with CWD, that is a very smart idea, but it is a very challenging thing to execute on. So could you guys talk a little bit about what brought us to this point, and then how we're making sure that we are delivering Friends for Life to the best of our abilities through the power of stuff like this?
Well, it was very clear, particularly from Laura had been working with the Disney team daily in the lead up to a decision. And when Disney closed, there was no choice. The choice was made for us that we had to do something virtually. We anticipated that and began planning how we would do this. And thankfully, there are platforms like Zoom, like you see here, that allow us to bring faculty to run sessions. It's not ideal, but it does let us still bring the education and the support to the Friends for Life community. Thankfully, we have a good staff, about a half a dozen very key people, and about 4 dozen others who have stepped up to assist during the live event, to help run sessions, be room captains, all of that kind of stuff. We couldn't do it without them. This has been a very challenging 3 months to try to figure out what exactly do we do. No one had ever done anything like this. How do we make sure that we have sessions? How do we make sure that kids can still participate? How do we give the sponsors an opportunity to interact and families to learn about the tools that they need to care for themselves? So it's been very challenging. Sometimes we're a lot of fun, sometimes we're very stressful. The good news is I think we are ready to go in 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's 3 days. The amazing thing is that because our sponsors stuck with us from a financial perspective, we have been able to make attending this virtual event no cost to participants. So as of about 20 minutes ago, we had 4,500 registered users.
Wow.
2,400 are first timers. That's more first timers at this event than we have ever had in real life. And coming from, I think, 42 countries.
Wow.
That's amazing. And kudos to everybody who stepped up and said, I'm going to try it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So virtual.
Can I talk about that? Can I talk about the Virtual Plus?
And you should talk about the social events. And the Plus was all Laura, great idea.
Yeah. So when we first said, there's no way we can do this in person, we have to hold this virtually, it didn't even take a minute to think Virtual Plus. Virtual being the sessions online, plus being what can we send people to make them feel even a little tiny piece of the love that happens when they walk into the Coronado and into the exhibit hall and they see everybody and get all the hugs and see all the sponsors. So how do we do that? And we said, let's do a boffle, a box of Fiffle. What do we put in the box? And oh my gosh, the first ideas we had for what would go in the boxes would have been as big as my dining room. So we had to make the decision to go to our sponsors and say, we're doing a box and we're only offering space in the box to our sponsors to thank you for helping support this. What do you want to put in it? And we pretty much left it entirely up to them. Some sent us fun things, some sent us reading material and things that you would use every day in your diabetes care. We had pretty big boxes that we sent. I wish we could have sent to everybody. We decided because I was doing it from my house in my yard during COVID time, so I couldn't pull a giant team together to do it. We said the first 500 addresses in the US we could send these boxes to, and we actually ended up, the sponsor sent us so much stuff, we actually extended that to 1,000, and I sent the last ones Friday.
Wow. I actually, while you were talking about this, I actually have a video of you guys packing up the boxes, which I'm going to play now.
Gosh.
I love it though. Hold on just a second.
Friday. This was Friday.
Oh wait, can I get this to play? Hold on.
Look at our UPS man. He's even wearing a smiley mask.
Wait, hold on. Let me pull this back up. For some reason that didn't work. But I like the fact that you guys are all wearing Friends for Life masks. It's pretty awesome. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can get this to work. Yeah,
so let me explain how we did it. I have a pretty big front yard. And so we set up tents around the yard. And we had a starting point where we would have the box with the family's name and who was in the family. And Joe Stroud
Whoa.
there we go. And that's Joe actually in the middle there with the blonde hair. She would get the box started. She'd put in the first few things, and then it would go to the t-shirt station, and then to the Friday station, the Thursday station, the Wednesday station, the station to get your yellow envelope and your name badges. And then it went to be weighed and taped and get a shipping label on it. And all of these were stations around my yard because we didn't want to breathe on each other. We needed the outside air. Thankfully, it did not rain and it wasn't way, way hot. And we got it done in 5 days.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Yeah. And we actually have a really great video of the Dooley family unboxing their Boffle, their box of Friends for Life, that we're going to be sharing through social media and putting on the website and that sort of stuff. But it's really fun to get a look at what was in the boxes. But I mean, it wasn't, you know, my family loved getting theirs too. My kids were stoked about it.
It was amazing having 1,000 boxes arrive here from the sponsors, unpacking all of them into 1,000 other boxes that were going to go out. But as we were still packing the ones on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, we were watching people who had already received theirs unpacking them. And it was just wonderful.
It was wonderful. Amazing.
Yeah.
I liked seeing everybody unbox everything and that sort, but it's also really kind of heartwarming to watch you talk about it because your face completely changes and it gets that like, well, because it's just part of the heart of Friends for Life. And it's what makes this conference different than just sitting down and learning things. You're connecting with your peers. You're having those really intimate friendships form and sustain themselves over the course.
So I was telling you earlier that this pin, my little Disney pin, goes on every Sunday morning when we start Friends for Life, and it stays on until we pack up the last box and leave Coronado. So I got up this morning and put it on, and it will be on all week, and it's just how it is.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
That pin is really interesting because people will come up and say, "Can I get one of those?" And I say, that pin means you have to pay the bill. No one wants them.
It does. But it also, it's Disney's signal. The person who wears this pin, if Disney has a question about anything going on at your conference, they find the person who has this pin. So it's kind of okay, I'm at the helm for this event. And so.
I just carry mine in my pocket.
Well, I mean, a lot of people on social media have been talking about how they just got a notification to check in for their flight, even though flights have been canceled, the conference has gone virtual. And so there is that like bit of angst for a lot of people who are thinking that they will miss all of the social connections. And that we've tried really hard as a group to make sure that social connections are still maintained and sustained. So Laura, can you talk a little bit about the social events that we have planned for virtual?
Yeah, I can. And boy, this is going into new territory for us. So we have a handful of social events at Friends for Life every year that they're just like our signature events. So on Thursday night, we have a banquet. It's called the Family and Friends Banquet. And on Friday night, we have a gathering for adults with type 1 diabetes and their significant others. And we have a teen dance, and we have a family movie night, and just a handful of things that are things that we do every single year. And we didn't want to let them go by the wayside, but we didn't really know how to do them either. And I was talking with Charles Miles, DJ Miles, who every year since the beginning of time has played all of the music for all of our social events. And he said, well, why don't you do it virtually? We can do virtual music, you can have virtual dances. And so Jeff and I talked about it, and for each event that we normally would have, we are going to have a virtual
music event,
I don't even know what to call it. So something like the banquet, for example, it will have the speaking parts that Jeff and I always do. It will have the slideshow that I always do. And it will have DJ Miles playing music that he always plays.
I didn't know he had a first name until about 4 seconds ago when you said Charles, and it kind of threw me for a loop. I'm like, who's Charles? Sorry.
So we're going to be listening and visiting other because we're going to have a big room available for everybody to talk to
Yep.
each other, share pictures and whatever, but we're going to be dancing on our own back porches and having our picnics at our own homes instead of all together in the ballroom.
So,
And I'm really hopeful that people will be sharing their photos, and we have a hashtag
yes.
for the conference. It's FFL Orlando 20. And so if you upload anything to social media during the course of the conference, like that kind of gives us as a group a way of, not in a creepy way, looking in each other's windows to see how people are celebrating the week. So forget how creepy that may have sounded and focus on the community aspect of it.
Yeah, and you know, you have to think, well, it does seem kind of weird, right? To have music on the screen and I'm dancing around my dining room. And I would just ask everybody, just imagine you're with all of your friends, because you really are. It's just we're not in the same room, but we are all together.
I love that. Jeff, I'm sorry, were you going to add something there?
No, I'm sure I'll be dancing with my grandkids. So
Yeah,
I'm sure you will too, and your nose is getting red again.
So we'll switch away from you real quick, Jeff. Laura, really quickly, can you just talk about why the teen dance is a prom theme? Because that's one of my favorite bits that you've really focused on this year. So just a bit on that.
Yeah, so we heard from a lot of teens that they were really upset that they did not get their teen prom this year because schools were canceled everywhere, as were their social events. And so we, again, talking to Charles Miles, DJ Miles. And I'm watching the chats here and people are saying, really, he had a first name?
I didn't know.
Yeah. So DJ Miles said, well, we can do a prom. Let's have a prom. Let's let all those teens celebrate. So again, it's just doing what makes sense. And this year having a prom for our teens makes a whole lot of sense. So teens, dress up, wear your prom stuff. Yeah, it might seem weird, it's in your dining room, but post your photos online. There's going to be an area online where you can be together with all of your friends, meet prom, go to Friends for Life prom.
And I'm sorry, your internet cut out just a little bit there, but that's always kind of the fun of live Zoom sorts of things where cows behind you pulled you into the Ethernet for a bit. But one other thing I wanted to talk about for sure were all of the volunteers that dedicate their time and their energies and their expertise to Friends for Life, whether it's virtual or in person. So could you guys say a little bit about the volunteers and that sort of thing?
Well, Laura traditionally is responsible for gathering up the volunteers, and those are from the youth programming groups to the sports central groups to the food teams and all of that. And it's a slightly different mix this year, but it's still trying to deliver the same kinds of things. The amazing thing from my perspective is to run as many Zoom sessions over 6 days that we're going to do. We need a huge team of volunteers to help start those, support them, keep everything running politely and all of that. And a very large group of people stepped up and said, I know how to do this. I'm a teacher, I do this, or I'm a tech person, I do this, or I've done a bunch, I'm in. And they've been organized into teams, set up so that people have breaks. And it is incredible how that's happened. In addition, we learned a lot about how to run virtual events from Jen Hansen at Connected in Motion. And we shamelessly borrowed and she allowed us to take a lot of the learnings from their Slipstream events and apply them to something that is 10 times bigger. And she's been very gracious about helping us get this all done. And Carrie, you and Beth on a lot of the back end stuff, Deb Rupert getting the teams organized. But you'll see them. They'll be room captains. They'll be the tech support people. So when you are attending sessions, give them a thanks in the chat. It matters. They're making it happen.
It does. It's been really fun from my perspective because in a normal year, there would be about 200 or so volunteers that we would be, getting out throughout Coronado to run the whole weeks of events. And this year, the people who stepped forward to help with the tech team, some of the same people wearing different hats, like, I didn't know you guys could do that. That's just so cool. So I think what we need to do moving forward is to take what we've always done and take what we're doing this year and look at what the world is presenting us with and say, we have an awfully talented group of people who can help with pretty much anything we decide to go forward with. And I'm sure there's more, especially people who are listening to this now saying, you know, I know how to do that. I could help too. It takes everybody to put it together. Jeff, you and I may be at the helm of it, but it's run by 200 something people who move it all forward.
You know, my role here is tiny compared to the enormous amount of effort being put in by the support people.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I'm glad that you guys took a few minutes to do that, because I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes sort of stuff, and there are a lot of hands and a lot of pots, and the expression seeing how the sausage is made, I think is a disgusting expression. But at the same time, I find it fascinating to see how many people are dedicating their time and their resources, and like I said, their expertise, and giving it in such a giving sort of way. So that's really nice to see. I know it looks great on screen, but seeing the behind the scenes has truly been pretty magical for me as a relative newbie to the whole process.
You know, and if we can't figure it out, we ask and we learn how to do it. And that has been how we have always approached everything. Well, there's a need, we figure it out.
Well, as people are, so we're going to have like a lot of people logging on next week to join us for Virtual Friends for Life. And they're going to go through this experience with us as a team, and we're going to grow as a family. But how do you want people to be feeling at the end of next week? I know you guys, I'm hoping will take like a vacation and turn off your computers and maybe have a drink. But aside from that, like what do you want that takeaway to be for people who are rediscovering CWD virtually, or for those of us who are joining for the first time?
Well, I would say a couple things. One, I want people to get excited about 2021. And our goal is to be back at Coronado in person in July of 2021, you know, everything permitting. But to the people who can't come, the 4,500 people who've signed up here, excuse me, is proof that we have to do some type of a digital participation. So I'm gonna get a sip of water.
Sure, go for it. I've been drinking coffee this whole time, so sorry in advance.
I'm two-fisted.
Yeah.
Hydrate,
and I would say, to me, the challenge has been how to incorporate the love of a FFL into a week that is done online. The important thing for me is that everyone feels part of it, and everyone feels how important they are, and that they come out feeling like they're part of the community, and they have a place in our giant family. And I really do hope people will come next year. Jeff and I will share information as soon as we have some clear direction. You know, obviously right now we just don't know what's going to happen with Disney and the hotel and what we will or won't be allowed to do. But as Jeff said, the plan right now is that we will definitely be back at the Coronado. We have contracts at the Coronado through 2027. There's no plans to stop doing the in-person conferences, but we have to figure out a way to allow everyone to participate who wants to, and that's going to be a virtual component that we need to figure out how to mesh the two together.
Yep.
There's a lot of excitement in the chat room right now about continuing a virtual component. They're excited about this year's virtual, but it just the sheer number of people who have registered and who are joining us for the first time says an awful lot about the need for that connection, especially in times when people are very isolated. Like, this could not be more unique, this circumstance. Very weird, but you guys have really risen to that challenge. So,
but we had to, because my daughter has diabetes, so it still matters. So,
Laura, I wasn't sure. Were you going to add something?
No, I
Well,
was thinking things.
Well, I have something to add. So speaking of kids and all the rest of it, so I connected with your kids and they had a little message that they wanted to share with you. So
Oh, great.
yeah, so hang on just a second. I bring up this video.
Hey Mom, hey Jeff, I'm here with Oliver, and we just wanted to say we're so proud of the work you've done to push the conference ahead. We're so excited for virtual VFFLO next week, so I think it really shows how much you care about the community, care about us, so we're so proud of that. Thank you, good luck next week, kick butt.
Hi! Over the past 20 years, you have created an art out of putting on a Friends for Life conference. And then this year, COVID came and threw a wrench in all of that. I just want to take a second to say how proud of you I am for what you've pulled together this year in figuring out how to bring Friends for Life magic to people all over the world through a computer. It's really tremendous what you've done. I know it's been so much work, and again, we are so proud of you, and we love you.
Hi Dad, I can't believe it's already time for this year's Friends for Life conference. Although we can't be with everyone this year, you managed to figure out a way to bring everyone together across the world for a virtual conference. I'm really proud of all the work that you put in this year to figure out how to do that, and I can't wait to watch it unfold next week when we're live. Have a great Friends for Life.
Grandpa Jeff, well, my dad, just wanted to say how amazing things have been and how proud I am of you for making the first Friends for Life virtual this year due to the pandemic. You put your heart and soul into everything you do, and you have more than done that this year.
I love you, Grandpa.
I love you too, Grandpa. Thank you for the work.
We love you, Grandpa. Thanks for all that you do.
Thanks for the work.
Love you, Dad.
Thank you. Love you, Dad.
Can you send it?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's you.
I could see my kids talking, but I couldn't hear them.
Oh, geez. Could you hear them, Jeff?
The audio kicked in when Tim started talking.
His mustache is something. I was excited to see.
I was going to say, when did he get a mustache?
Yeah, we couldn't hear Sam and Carolyn, so we'll have to
Oh, no.
put that
Oh.
online and play again.
Absolutely. Well, I will definitely share that with you guys. But they wanted to basically let you guys know how proud they were of you and to thank you for all of your work to put this together. And so
That was very nice.
it was very nice. But we're kind of rolling out towards the end of our hour. There has been a lot that you guys have been working on, a lot that you have covered, and you have 21 years under your belt, basically, of putting this event on. So is there anything you want to leave the group that's sitting in the chat and listening to us at home? Is there anything you want to say to folks in anticipation of next week?
Come, enjoy. I must say that we were concerned when we first started this that by July, people would be kind of zoomed out. But the fact that we're getting 200 people a day register shows that the power of what FFL delivers is meaningful, and people are signing up and they're going to come. We are not quite sure how it's all going to work out. It's all programmed up. The live site is ready to go. Watch for an email tomorrow with the instructions on how to actually connect and the password to get into everything. And we're going to learn as we go. It's going to be a great week.
And I just want to add, I hope by the end of the week that everybody who is participating feels like you're part of the family. I think the people who are watching us right now and know us probably already feel like they're part of the family. But if you're brand new and coming in and maybe a little hesitant about it, I really hope that you feel some of that and that you know that you are.
Indeed.
Well, thank you both for spending, I know you're crazy busy, so thanks for spending an hour on a beautiful Sunday with the CWD community for this Screenside chat. For those of you at home, we're going to be posting the full broadcast of this on the website probably tonight or tomorrow. And you can join us in 2 weeks for the next Screenside chat. But wait, make sure that you are registered for Virtual Friends for Life Orlando. You can go to cwd.is /FFL to join the fun and get the registration link. So make sure that you're
And
registered.
we will see you all at the social events.
Yes.
Say hi in the session, say hi in the side rooms. We're going to be there.
Yeah, the conference is virtual, but the friends are for life. It's not just a tagline, like it actually matters. So thank you both for being here. Thanks everybody at home for joining us, and we will see you next week at the conference.
Bye,
It's a
everyone.
meeting, so that means you have to wave when it's over because that's weird. Bye, guys.
Bye.